Hello everyone, how you doing? So I thought if I get to write these things I'd want to say, perhaps maybe LinkedIn or Facebook would say, well, you have to go to another post. So just to share the few things that I thought maybe a young person might learn from it. Um, so grateful that the externship has started and kicked off, and the more we plan, make adjustment, because it's a pilot project, the more we're seeing how important an externship might be. I really love the first session that happened, and I love that dynamic doctors is actually shifting the whole narrative from what do you call it, from government, from we, which sounds like a lot of French and a lot of we and invisible people, to say the communities have power, and we have to empower the communities so that they would be able to be champions for their health. And I actually love that narrative. I love the way the conversation is going, and I love the interactions that's happening in the among the extents, whereby they are bringing in their knowledge, they are sharing in what they've seen in community, and how that will shape how they look at being change makers, or being health champions or environmental champions in their community. And that leads me on to the amazing fireside chat I had over the weekend with Engage Africa, Engage Africa Foundation. It was nice to see my people, nice to see that they're still in the movement, in the work to promote health equity. And I love the conversation with Dr. Patrick, Dr. Olivia, Dr. Tuyib, just having that beautiful conversation. And based on what I've gotten from the Extend seminar or webinar, I enjoyed the fireside chat to contribute that, let's look at things in a collaborative way. Let's have the knowledge that community health workers are champions, and they are the engine room. And I know in Nigeria there is no career progression for a community health worker. I know this because of the people I'm working with and the people I have employed, and there's just that ceiling. So they kind of get discouraged because of the way we look at community health workers. It's like, oh, instead of community health, or I'll go and do nursing, or I'll go and do medicine. And not everybody has that opportunity to go and study medicine. They don't have that finances. There are no scholarships available, and there's a whole lot of conversations about the whole rigors of going to study medicine. I had someone also in the last week saying, okay, this whole medicine school, this whole medical school is very hard, and I'm having anxieties and depression. And it makes me think about one of my colleague is doing in terms of mental health on campuses. And I was like, anyways, I could help you in this particular way. So it got me thinking, how do you support such students or such professionals? And going on from there and realizing, you need community, you need all of that. I was also listening to a conversation with the program launch for the Ishekiri Life Sciences Network, and I've got calls and people saying, well, this is very important, this is very essential, and just asking these young people, what problem would you like to solve? I saw a post whereby someone was saying, if the problem you want to solve was a degree or something like that, what would you do? And or what would be the title of your degree or your field of study? And I got people talking about the impact of brain health and the environment, and I have got people talking about safe anesthesia. People are talking about food security and hygiene, which are very brilliant, but some of these voices are very silent, and they are not online. We are not hearing them so loudly. But I find out that it's important in our little communities to start picking out these unsung heroes. And speaking of unsung heroes, I know it feels like I'm going in from one to one. That's just how my week has been, and I'm like, it's wonderful to share. Speaking of unsung heroes, I also have a sister who's been like, well, unsung heroes, they are plenty. People who don't even have social social media but are doing so much work. One of our partners asked us to, nominate or something, and I found myself going to look out for organizations, that I have connections with directly or indirectly. And truly, there are lots of unsung heroes who might not be on Facebook, Instagram, these big platforms, but they're actually doing the work, especially in conflict areas, in remote communities. And it's just beautiful to see. So how do you get these unsung heroes so that they can access the opportunities, the network that they deserve, so that people can hear their stories and know what they are doing. And just be grateful that as much as we grumble and there's no funding, there's no this, people are still going the extra mile to do a lot of things. And and if you read my newsletter, I was talking about job hunting. I'm job hunting because the work I was doing, they didn't offer me teaching hours. I'm actively job hunting in the UK while also actively running a social enterprise in Nigeria. And that's how you keep the funding going. You have to work and you have to keep your NGOs going or your non-for-profit going. It's just the maths, because fundings can, it's a 50-50 thing. Yeah, I don't talk much about that, but it's a reality. So I'm job funding, and last week I job hunting, and I saw a post on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, not for the paparazzi, but for the realities that I get to, the stories I get to read, and just like, oh, is that happening? And I saw someone last week said AI interviewed her for a job role. And I was like, ooh, that is interesting. And you know what? Even in my job hunting yesterday, I applied for a job role, and I realized that it was the AI that was interviewing me. And for the person's experience, she felt, oh, it was too cold-hearted. But for the first time, AI is looking at my CV and asking me questions relating to my CV, my work, and talking to me or asking me questions that are related to the job. And I felt that was much more beneficial to me, and I enjoyed that conversation rather than someone telling me there's a scripted kind of template. I get it, that's what organizations use, but most of the times in my job roles that I have applied for, or jobs that I'm applying for, they have this scripted theme whereby if they follow it, so it's not like a standard, and all I need to do is make sure I have examples to show. And sometimes it's not related to my CV. I have to hide my CV or tone down my roles or the things I'm doing, whether paid or unpaid, just because I want to fit into the criteria of the job role. But what AI did, or the interview with the AI, was it highlighted the things, the work, volunteered and freelance and all, and used that to ask me questions for the role I wanted. And I found it very fascinating. I know there's a lot of conversation about AI, but that experience yesterday was just, okay, we could we could actually work with this AI thing. Because also one day I went to one of the banks to do something, and I was talking to one of the international students, which I tend to interact with a lot of international students, and he said, oh, my dissertation is about how to use AI to screen the applicants for a job, so that you remove biases and all. And for me it was interesting, so I could put the international students research and what I experienced yesterday. I'm like, yeah, definitely. So I don't need to tone down, especially as a migrant, where you're like having to chip away parts of you just because you need to fit into a role, so that you don't be too overqualified or you're underqualified or whatever they get to say. But anyways, so it's just the thoughts I have to say. I don't know, maybe someone might pick up something to learn from what I've said, but it's just to tell young people that you just have to keep growing, keep learning. I find LinkedIn as a very amazing platform where I have opportunity to see different people from different parts of the world, and I can just read their stories, take one or two things and somehow apply it to my life, apply it to my community, have partnerships, make collaborations, and yeah.